Time travel made possible. New York, Maryland, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Learning can be great fun, but also a bit of hard work too, of course. Learning does not just happen by chance, and Liber-Tea values the idea of learning greatly. Join us now as we continue our time travel, the trials and tribulations, alongside the earliest of North Americans, the Native American Indians. Like, subscribe, comment, and share throughout each video available, including this one, and enjoy the journey and destination of learning with us. In 1623, the New Netherlands came about. Wait, what? The New Netherlands? Which settlement colony was this? Well, let's see if you can guess. The colony was born from the WIC, Dutch West India Company. But unfortunately, through mismanagement and mistreatment and conflicts with Native Americans, colonization was very slow. The settlement of New Sweden by the Swedish South Company encroached from the south, and from the east, the border was redrawn to accommodate the expanding New England Confederation. Fur trading, with plenty of harbors to help import and export, were all around, and seasonal migrational people controlled the lower Hudson River. Hint, hint. Along with many Indian helpers from the Mohawks and the Mohican tribes. The Mohawk tribe secured an almost full monopoly in the fur trade with the Dutch since they controlled the upstate Adirondacks and Mohawk Valley through the center of, drumroll please, that's right, New York. Did anyone know that New York was originally called New Netherlands? The population back then was a very diverse group of Germans, Scandinavians, Frenchmen, Scottish, English, Irish, Jewish, and Italians. Although from other countries, they all lived under Dutch rule. In 1664, King Charles II granted New Netherlands to his brother James, Duke of York, who took a fleet to the area where the Dutch surrendered without a fight, and it was thereafter named New York. Maryland is our next colony briefing, named in honor of Queen Henrietta Maria, the Queen Consort of Charles I. While she shared the title of top royal with Charles, she did not share the same power. The first English settlers, a carefully selected group of Catholics and Protestants, arrived in March 1634 in what is now called Maryland. The settlement was established to flee religious persecution and was supposed to be a haven for Roman Catholics persecuted in England. After many struggles and hardships, Catholics gained control of Maryland in the 19th century and helped to enact laws to protect the religious freedoms. While settling Maryland, the colonists here were reported to be a bit more progressive in their learning of what actually was needed to settle a complete new country and land area. Unlike their foolish neighbors to the north, Maryland settlers, instead of hunting for their fortune in gold, went about making peace with the local Indians and built farms and trading posts near the shores and islands of the lower Chesapeake Bay. They allowed workers to work off their terms of their passage to the new America through laboring tobacco fields and other field jobs. Roads and towns were few, and contact from house to house was often only obtainable by water transport. And since, back then, people tended to build around clusters of waterways and river harbors, Maryland tended to grow very successfully economically. As we continue our travel through time, we find that Connecticut soon after became the next settlement interest. A war between the river Indians of the Connecticut Valley and the Pequot of the Thames Valley sent other Indian tribes to the Massachusetts Bay Colony to garner support from English settlers. This was, in part, because the location was so desirable with the intersection of the Farmington and Connecticut rivers. There was rich and fertile soil, but most importantly, the war was made more complicated for the Indians with the new European interest in the fur trade. All of this combined brought new interest from a man named Governor Winslow. Winslow, from the nearby colony of Plymouth, saw the lands more for himself than for others. Winslow made the trip to Connecticut Valley, and having experienced its favorable living conditions in the area, he decided in 1633 to build a settlement. The Dutch were close by in the modern-day Hartford, which today is the state capital of Connecticut. Along with other Plymouth leaders, they built a trading house in the Connecticut Valley to make use of the profitable local fur trade business that was exploding in the area. These same Plymouth leaders put a man named Lieutenant William Holmes in charge of exploration. Although there were many rugged challenges in securing the area for the English, which included smallpox and combative local Native American neighbors, the first settlement in Dorchester, renamed Windsor, began to thrive, and by 1689, residents built their first community meeting house and started mills for processing the local yields from the land. Exploring our next settled colony, we find, traveling through time, the smallest of all settlements, and even to this day, the smallest of all the U.S. states. Can you guess which one this is? If you guessed Rhode Island, you would be correct. While there is a bit of debate still going on as to whom exactly discovered this tiny island, the name Rhode Island is taken from the words Red Island, noting the color of its red clay along the shores. In the year 1636, Roger Williams, a Puritan who attended Cambridge, had been agitating the authorities in the Massachusetts Bay Colonies. In an attempt to avoid being sent back to England, he went to live for a few months with the Wampanoag tribe. After this time, he and his followers bought the title of land from the Indians, which is now one of the few permanent settlements of its kind. A settlement legitimately paid for, lands purchased from the Narragansett tribe provided for the Providence or Providence Plantation settlements. It is also reported that the colonists here were some of the first and most ardent settlements to combat British rule. They were the first to suggest a Continental Congress in 1774 and in 1776 to completely do away with any oath or vow to the British Crown. A huge step for this small, red-clayed island. Perhaps at this point it is prudent to mention the culture wars between the Indian tribes and the newly settled Europeans. There were some friendly agreements between them, such as the colonists would often pay Indians to work for them, and trading for food and other resources were quite lucrative. Plus, with the knowledge that the Europeans were still in very few numbers compared to the Indians, the settlers understood their humble place. However, that would soon change. Maybe the biggest divide in how the Indians and Europeans settled the land was in their views and perspectives of land in general. While owning land was extremely important to the European settlers because it meant great wealth and personal and political power, for many it was a dream come true to become rich and powerful. On the other hand, Indian people believed no one could actually own land. They believed in using it, harvesting it, and living on it in peace and harmony with all of the nature and animals around them. They were very familiar with the conditions and environments and never tried to change anything in nature. They would farm for a few years and then move on to another part of the country, allowing the previously lived-on land to become wild again. The same idea with hunting the animals as well. Because there was not a lot of fear at first, the Indians were happy to help the settlers by teaching them how to plant crops and survive off the land. But the Indians could not understand exactly the philosophy of the settlers' ideas of land owning through more permanent buildings and fences, demanding that the Indians keep out at points. Another discontent was the area of religion. The settlers believed they possessed the one true faith and that everyone should believe this. They soon came to understand that the Indians were not in agreement and, in fact, were quite satisfied with their own spiritual beliefs. Because of this, the colonists started seeing the Indians as evil, mysterious, with their own unchristian views. As the years passed, friendship began to be replaced with fear from both sides. Join us next time for more Liber-Tea as we travel through this fascinating era and discover more colony settlements. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this and the other videos and start a conversation of your own.